Hello, and welcome to Around the Scene, presented to you by Playing with Rockets. I'm one of your hosts, PWR Ryan, and joining me today is Daddy Perino. Good to have you back, man.
Always a pleasure to be with you on this lovely Wednesday evening, Ryan.
You know, this is probably one of the best nights of my week, to be totally honest with you.
I actually will admit to you, again, I'm moving apartments next week, so I've been busy trying to, get my stuff together and get organized in here. It hasn't been going well, but I completely forgot.
Things aren't working out well here.
I need to put a lot more effort into it, but yeah, I completely forgot today was Wednesday, and then I saw your message earlier, and I was like, oh, yes! I got so excited. I was like, all right, we get to do this today.
Your message was just like, I forgot.
Pretty much, but we're here now. We're live. We're doing it.
Yeah, we are. Guys, if you didn't know, this is episode 15 of Around the Scene. We're here every Wednesday to get you your fix on all things Rocket League. If you like this, be sure to give us a follow here on Twitch or kick us a buck over on patreon.com/playingwithrockets. I gotta fix your thing really quickly because it still says Kairos. I even told myself, I was like, I'm gonna edit it while we're waiting to start the stream. There we go. Perino TV.
It just be like that. It just be like that.
I just need to have a separate scene that's just you because you're you're consistently on here.
Oh man, am I that special now? I got my own scene.
You do.
My own OBS scene.
I mean, I can make as many as I want, so it's easy.
Yeah, right.
But be sure to kick us a buck over on patreon.com/playingwithrockets. We thank you guys for joining us, and we encourage you to ask us questions there in chat. It's something new that we're trying out still, so kind of bear with us on it. But who knows? We may bring your question up during the show and, talk about it. But the only way for you guys to do that is to come watch us here live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. EST, only on twitch.tv/playingwithrockets. Quick shout out to our Patreon sponsors for the month of July. We got Father of Five and Jonesy, so thank you guys so much for your continued support there. For today's news segment, we've got a massive, huge, gigantic 4 items.
Oh boy, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Dig into it.
So our very first bit of news, this one I actually really like, because we spoke about this in past podcast episodes, like with Kevpert. DreamHack will be allowing coaches on stage for DreamHack Montreal. So this coming from DreamHack Rocket League and being posted there by CJRL on the RL Esports subreddit. I can't say words. But what are your thoughts on this?
It's good. I don't know how much of an impact it's going to make. So, again, it's one of those things where because I'm assuming they can't talk to them in the middle of the game still, right? It's not like
so the way that it's gonna work is the coaches can be on stage with them, and then during the series and stuff, they can't say anything. They have to step back and just watch. But that time between games, they can actually come in and give tips and talk to them about strategy while they get ready for the next game. Which, this was something that I talked about with Kevpert on, episode 9 or whatever. That this was a big thing because it means that coaches start to have more, coaches potentially have more of an impact because, you're in the game, you're just focused, you're hyper-focused on everything. But there are things you're going to miss that can only be pointed out to you by an outside source sometimes. And so I think this is great because a coach can finally come in and play their role in a new way.
Yeah, it definitely adds a lot of benefit for making adjustments in the middle of a series. It's not like CS:GO where you can sort of shot call in between rounds, whatever, and say, okay, well, they're on an anti-eco, okay, we're gonna buy this, that, and we'll go here because that player there on the anti-eco is weak. So it can't be that detailed, but I think it's a good thing. Really the biggest thing is I don't see a downside.
No, I don't either.
There's no problem with it. So,
this to me is just, this is the next step in the evolution of what coaches are in Rocket League. And I hope, my hope is that this works out well and more teams bring on coaches and then Psionics allows it for RLCS. That's my hope.
Yeah, and I think, again, the problem I think with coaches is that it's hard to find qualified candidates that really, really know what they're doing and what they're talking about. Frankly, there's just not that many people that
it takes
because the respect
specific individuals.
Right, because especially Rocket League it's such a high intensity and such a what's the word I'm looking for? It's like very like fast paced and very quick thinking. Like it's hard to have set strategies. Coaching is generally more for bigger picture stuff, but I like the change. I think it's good. Do I think it's that much of an advantage to have a coach on stage with you?
I think it's to be seen.
Yeah.
This being the first time that it's going to come into effect, I think it's going to be one of those things that people see it and it's like, whoa, this is a game changer for some teams, or it's going to be, okay, well, it helped a little bit. Am I going to base my whole opinion of it off of one tournament? Probably not, because you have to remember, this is a first for the players, but it's a first for the coaches too. They've never done this. They've never had the chance to be able to give feedback mid-series like this. So, I mean, I like it. You see other esports have it too, where the coach is standing right behind the players, giving them feedback and stuff. And I like that that's a change that they're making here. And I think that it's a step in the right direction. I like that DreamHack is kind of like the testing pool.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the biggest impact from a coaching perspective will just be management of emotion. Trying to, if players are too hype, okay,
trying to kind of bring them down from it so that they're still playing properly.
And vice versa, if they start to get too tilted, bring them back up, try to gas them up, so I think that element of it, I think, can definitely be a huge asset.
Yeah.
Have someone from the outside just to sit there and be like, all right, guys, settle in, you got it, relax, take a deep breath, and let's go.
Yeah. Well, and you have so many players right now that could make really great coaches. I mean, Chrome right now, I think he actually might be coaching a team now. I thought I might have seen that he's coaching someone. I feel like
he was coaching NRG. We know that, but
no, but I feel like he might have. I don't think it was officially that he joined anybody. But anyway, you have Chrome, who's a free agent for that now. Fireburner might be, but he's probably still gonna be with NRG, to be totally honest, as their coach now. I mean, yeah, it makes the most sense. The two guys already respect him. I personally think Kevpert could go on and be a pro coach. The guy knows his stuff.
That would be cool, especially because so many of us, if you followed any of the content creators early on for this game, Kevpert was one of the first that really came out,
and he
on
still
YouTube
puts
and was big.
He still puts out really great content too. He puts out really detailed, in-depth strategy guides and stuff, ways to improve yourself. He has the heart of a coach, and I think it's awesome. I think that if there's suddenly a scramble for coaches, I definitely could see him getting the move up to one of those.
Certainly a possibility, no doubt about it.
You got anything else you want to add on this one?
No, I think we covered a lot of good ground there on that one.
I think so too. Now we're gonna take a brief pause. Nope, still no announcement. We're just gonna keep pausing the show and refreshing the Twitter page for NRG, because I'm praying to God that they just make this announcement during the show, because I feel like they're gonna make it right after, and that's really gonna bring me down. We're gonna have to wait a whole week to discuss this change.
Oh, I know. It would be so nice, but it's going to be Drippy. You heard it here first. I said it a long time ago.
Oh,
you heard it here first.
I kind of believe it too, to be honest. That's one I'm buying into.
The longer it has gone on, the more and more I'm firmly in the Drippy camp. So
yeah, I've started buying into that one more anyway. But moving on to the next one is the complexity drama. For those of you who don't know, Flakes. So I'm going to lay out the story as best I can. Don't quote me on some of the stuff, but essentially, Complexity for the DreamHack qualifiers for Montreal, they were gonna join in. It was gonna be the teams Metzenaris, no, not Metzenaris, Magnus, Greasy, Flakes.
Yes.
Okay. So the team's Magnus, Greasy, Flakes, and essentially Flakes went to Magnus and told him that he wanted to try out someone else over Greasy. Long story short, Flakes was kind of removed because I think it was something like basically... No, I'm not going to try and guess on it. But basically, Flakes was the one who ended up getting removed. But then when he said that, no, he wanted to come back and try to work on it, they brought him back in. They had brought in Turbo to be there to try him out for the qualifiers. And then suddenly it was like, no, Turbo's out, Flakes is in. It was just a mess. Did you see any of this?
Yeah, because it was kind of spread across like Twitter and Reddit and some other things. It was very disjointed. I was surprised at how much of it was public. It reminded me, in a sense, of what we just saw recently with our good friends at TSM.
iGnite and Remco.
Yeah, and the whole thing there. Yeah, here's my hot take. You ready for the hot take, Ryan?
I'm ready, man. Hang on, let me strap in.
Okay.
Let's go.
Seatbelt on, because I'm not surprised that Complexity tried to drop Flakes.
Really?
Based on, again, this is a lot of conjecture on mine, and this is a hot take, so I'm telling you this before.
Oh no, we're all about the hot takes here, man. People can take us at fact, or they can take us at, our opinions.
This is truly just an opinion. However, I will say that if Flakes is considered to be toxic, quote unquote, to his teammates, if he acts and behaves in a way that, because everybody said, and this is, I don't think this is an unpopular opinion, but Flakes is the best player on that team. He just is.
No, a lot of people believe that, and I mean, I'm of the same mindset. I think that he's probably the best player for them too.
But if he believes that as well, and takes that mindset and is trying to work with his teammates and trying to tell them, you should be doing X while I'm doing Y, and you should be doing C while I'm doing B, and if he has a bad attitude about it, which we've seen some of that just from watching his stream and stuff, and just like some of the way that he's gone about some of this. If he has a really poor attitude, it doesn't shock me in the slightest that they try to drop him at the first hint of uneasiness, I guess. Because if Flakes went about and said, okay, I want to drop Greasy, and then Greasy went to Magnus and was like, nah, we're dropping this toxic kid instead, that would not shock me at all. I do think that it had everything to do with personality clash and nothing to do with on the field.
Yeah, I mean, so there were a lot of parts to this that you and me we're gonna discuss a little bit more of this in the freewheeling section. So I don't want to go too deep into some of the other stuff like regarding the subreddit like I want to just yet. But I don't know, my situation with it, for what I understand, is that like he went to them and they were kind of like, it was basically like drop him. No, I feel like that's wrong though. I wanted to say it's like drop him or I'm leaving, and they were just like, okay, like we'll leave you.
Yeah.
And then he like took his words back, or like I think it was like he ended up getting dropped, and then like when he was like, no, I want to work through the issues. Like if y'all don't want to change, like we don't have to change. Like let's work through it then. But it's one of those things that it's like, I don't feel like we should have seen as much of this as we saw. Like, I really don't believe we should have seen as much of this as we saw. I think that this was definitely one of those situations where it's like things should have been handled behind closed doors, and that should have been it.
Yeah, and as you said, we'll kind of touch on this, I think, towards the end of the episode here. But yeah, it
was just a cluster.
Yeah, to put it lightly. It was kind of a mess. So again, as far as we know, he's still on Complexity.
Yeah,
But
he is.
I guess
They
that's something.
decide to work through whatever problems they see themselves having and are going to remain as a team. But yeah, it was just
Yikes.
the whole yeah, exactly. Like one word, the whole situation was just yikes, man.
Pretty
It was
much.
just it was one of those things that you're just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, again, I think it has largely to do with personality issues, and we just
Yeah.
kind of saw it all come out for a moment. And my guess is they'll stick together for the RLCS season. They'll
Yeah.
play through the RLCS
Well,
season, and then they'll make the change that they
and
want.
that's one of my things too, is like you look at a lot of these teams, and there was a meme about it of like newly promoted RLRS teams kicking new people from their rosters, and it's like, you made it to the highest level with this roster. Give it one season. At least, you know?
Yeah,
And
but
like,
the flip side is that we see so many of these newly promoted, or at least in the past, the trend was kind of reversed in later seasons, but we've seen so many of these rosters immediately end up getting dropped back. You feel like you're under so much pressure to succeed that you have to make a change. Why? If you're okay, let's take for example, like, okay, so Splice last season, right? They
Yeah.
just gotten promoted up.
Okay.
A lot of people predicted Splice to do really poorly, and they did.
Oh yeah.
So should Splice have stuck with their team then, or should they have made a roster move? If
I
back
think
then Splice had made a move, would people
things
have
could
the
have been
same
different.
reaction?
But like my problem with that situation I look at is very different. They gave it a chance. Like I understand like there's a lot of pressure being there. And I'm not saying like I totally have the right answers, but I believe that if you make it there with a team, you owe it to yourself and to that group of people to give it a chance. To see if you can compete with this roster at that higher level, because you don't know. Like, you made it through all the other competition to this point. You took down other RLCS level teams to get here. Give it at least one season. Like, with Space Station Gaming, I can't say that I'm too upset about that one because they gave it a season. They gave it a chance. Do I agree with how they went about it? Not necessarily. That's a topic for another time. But I think that they did it the right way of give it one season to see if it works out. They didn't feel it worked out, and they made a change. Now, whether we agree with that change, how they went about that, again, it's a topic for a different time. But I think that they handled that in the way that I would like to see it be handled personally. Again, I don't have the correct answer to all this. I don't think anyone does. But that's personally what I would like to see.
Yeah, it's again, but I think it's just a purely competitive issue. It's at the end of the day, it is people's livelihoods. We're getting to the point now in Rocket League where it is people's livelihoods, and you have to do what you have to do to stay afloat. It's just it's the reality of it. It's so volatile. A lot of people don't like it, but I just think that's the reality of it. So
no, and I mean I can't say you're wrong in that regard. I mean I think that's totally accurate. It's
again, yikes.
Yeah. And on that note, we're going to move on to our next item. The DreamHack Montreal qualifiers. We're going to recap it real quick for you guys at home, just so you know what all happened this past weekend. So, first off, I got to join Rival Esports as a commentator. Hey! So I got to go commentate those. So if you want to go back and watch that, see my commentary and how nervous I was.
No.
Dude, I was shaking like a leaf for that thing. I was so
for an audience
nervous.
that size, yeah, that's.
I'm not used to that many people in like one deal, and so like Saturday I had the stream up and I saw how many viewers and I saw the chat and stuff, and I was like,
big mistake.
No, it was a huge mistake. Well, I'm used to seeing it like for our normal cast, so I didn't think much of it at the time. But then like during it, I was like, oh my god, this is so many people. I'm really not prepared for this. And so Sunday I had it turned off. I didn't look at any of it until after I had finished my time commentating, and I feel I did way better the second day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got to join that. Huge. Yeah, no, that was a big deal for me. I was super proud of myself for making it to that point.
Yeah, I was really happy to see your beautiful face and your shining voice over the broadcast. It was
thank you, man.
It was good. Again, I'm happy for you. Really happy for you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. But
Yeah.
moving on. Don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much.
Nah, yeah,
Still
you
a long
know,
way to go.
We're just a little proud over here sometimes.
Hey, yeah, you had to give yourself the moment.
Yeah, I did. I haven't like said anything about it like on streams or anything, so I'm like, I gotta say something. But anyway, back to the actual news. I'm unimportant. Yes. DreamHack Montreal qualifiers. So the two teams that qualified through Europe's closed qualifiers are Renault Vitality and PSG Esports. All these teams that we're about to name, they're the teams that are getting a full ride, all expenses paid, because they were the top 2 or top 1 for their regional qualifiers. We had 4 regions this time: Europe, North America, Oceania, and South America. For North America, the 2 teams were G2 and Afterthought. I just want to ask you, did you see any of this?
I actually did not, so I cannot claim that I have watched any of the matches.
So this Afterthought team, the super interesting thing about them is this team consists of Shock, Sathu, and First Killer.
Oh boy.
And they took down Space Station Gaming to get there. In the upper bracket.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's again, I'll admit that I didn't get to watch any of this, so
yeah, no, it was super impressive. That was a really cool team, because that was just a team I totally didn't expect to happen. For those of you who don't know, though, First Killer, he is still not of age to compete in RLCS Season 8. So Sathy's already confirmed this. This is not going to be their team going into that. So don't count on First Killer being the 3rd in that group. First Killer is not eligible. I saw earlier he's not eligible until Season 9.
Unlucky.
Yeah.
But
so
huge result for them.
Yeah, clearly. Great on them. I'm super happy for those guys. That was a big deal for them. But yeah, so First Killer, don't count on him being there for RLRS plans when they come around. This team's not going to stay together beyond DreamHack. Oceania, the team that made it through there, is Chiefs Esports Club. Remember, Chiefs sold to Renegade, and then Icon bought out Chiefs. So this team that qualified is CJ's team, not Kami and Zen and all of them.
Right.
They are now the Renegades. I felt I had to say something just because they've had such a weird like swap of organizations over there.
Really
and then,
confusing is what it is.
Yeah, it's super confusing. And then for South America, the team that qualified through is Lotus. Lotus actually got 4th place in South America's league play for RLCS Season 7. So they came up huge, beating out Erodium, INTZ, and Low-Key for this spot.
Yeah, so a little bit to break down. See, these qualifiers are always really interesting to me, because on the one hand, you have like teams who are like bubble teams or like RLRS teams. You know, maybe some
competing against a lot of these RLCS level teams too.
Right, but the interesting thing I always find is that because the RLCS teams, like generally speaking, will always have
they have a ride regardless.
Yeah,
whether they win or
like
lose
Cloud9,
qualifiers, they got a ride.
Because wasn't it like Cloud9, for example, where like they didn't play in this because they
Cloud9 and NRG, they did not compete. NRG still haven't announced their 3rd.
As we hit the real quick check.
Nope, still haven't announced it. And then Cloud9, apparently Squishy and Gimmick were out of town. But again, it doesn't matter to them. They're going regardless.
Right. So it always creates an interesting dynamic where you have these higher level teams that don't really care as much, because it's not really a big deal if you don't qualify in this, because you're going to go regardless. But for the smaller teams, it's everything. Like
this is their only chance to make it to DreamHack.
Like, so for example, like, you know, for the previous DreamHack, you know, when the River Rats, you know, with Classics and Corrupted G, you know, when they auto-qualled into Valencia, it's huge for them, because they were orgless and they probably weren't going to be able to go otherwise, because you have to, you know, pay for it out of pocket. So, you know, for these small, so like Afterthought, for example.
Yeah, for them, that was huge. Like, that's why I'm so happy for them, is because, again, they wouldn't be going otherwise. So
I think the dynamic creates a tournament where upsets are bound to happen just because of the level of, how much people care. Like,
yeah.
remember, I think it was Justin or Garrett that streamed NRG's qualifier into and like
Yeah.
people were like, "This is really how you calm," and it's like,
What was it?
no,
It wasn't. I think
either
it
from
was
Dallas or
DreamHack
from
Dallas
yeah,
qualifiers.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
like
was
they
actually like
streamed
a
it.
super awesome stream though. It was actually really cool to finally see what comms actually kind of sound like. Cause like whenever they were like at the start of a game, they would always get super like serious. They would actually be calming. And then like once they got like a considerable lead, they'd start screwing around in their comms and they would start joking a little bit. They wouldn't take it as seriously. And it was just like that was super interesting to me just to like be able to actually see behind the curtain and see that dynamic or hear it, I guess.
Yeah. So again, it's just a very interesting, atmosphere, I guess, for these competitive teams. But looking forward to Montreal, isn't it? It's kind of quick, isn't it?
September 6th or 8th, so we still got like a month.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a while.
It's
It's Beyond the Summit that is coming up next, which we're about to go into that one. But one more thing about the Montreal DreamHack Montreal. This is not about the qualifiers now, just about the actual event when it comes up. This is going to be the most international tournament for Rocket League yet, because there's also one Asian team that is going to be making the trip. And that is going to be 1NE Esport, or 1NE. I don't think it's 1NE Esports. I'm not sure.
I think it might just be one. I don't know.
One. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. 1 Esports. Yeah, that makes more sense. I was like, I always like sit here looking at it. I was like, I don't even know how I'm supposed to pronounce this.
I think
you did so much better with me than I did.
I mean, I'm making an assumption, but
no, I think that's right. 1 Esports. God,
hey, listen,
I feel like an idiot right now.
I try to do what I can around here. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I feel so stupid now. It's like one of those things that like you just don't get it, and then someone says it, and you're like, oh. So 1 Esports. For those of you who don't know, 1 Esports, they're the ones who run the Asia Pro League, like their version of RLCS, basically. Because they're not officially part of RLCS yet. But 1 Esports, they were actually the champions for the most recent Asia Pro League. So they're going to be basically the best team coming from the Asian region right now. So I'm extremely excited to see them perform on the international stage finally.
Yeah, it's either going to be one of those things where they surprise everyone and do really well, or they're going to completely bomb. It's one of the two.
Even if they bomb, like I'm happy that they're there. Like same with RLCS championships. I didn't care that Oceania and Sam didn't make it out of groups. I was just happy that they're there. Because the fact that they're there means that we are making that push towards becoming an international esport.
Again, exciting times here in the Rocket League scene. Doing it big.
Oh, you know it, man. So moving on to our final bit of news. Beyond the Summit's talent lineup has been released. I don't know why I didn't have it pulled up now. I did have it, and then I didn't. But the talent lineup for the casters is going to be Cameron Johns, also known as CJ there from Oceania. We got Corelli, James Bott, Johnny Boy, Isaac, so Turtle, and last but not least, Leaf X. So
Phenomenal
just
lineup.
six guys.
Really, really good lineup, though.
Yeah, no, I like the lineup.
I like that they pulled both from community figures and RLCS. You have CJ and Johnny Boy, who are obviously two of the community, and then they brought back James Bott. It'd be so good to see him back with Rocket League.
Well, and especially because Beyond the Summit is sort of like the more professional iteration of what Gold Rush was. And him being one of the people who founded Gold Rush, it's really cool to see him going back into that. And I'm super happy that they didn't keep him out of it. Because, like, if anybody deserves to be in it, like, it definitely was James Bott.
100%. 100%.
So I'm super happy with that lineup. Only 6 people. I was kind of expecting they would have more. But again, Beyond the Summit, it's a much more relaxed atmosphere. So it's not that surprising, to be honest. But I don't know. I expected more people, possibly.
And it's possibly a location thing too. You know, they have to get everyone on site and do it together. So, you know, I mean, they're pulling. I mean, think about it like this. Okay, CJ is coming from Australia, right?
Yeah.
Aussie. You know,
Woo.
Johnny Boy from our across the pond. You know,
Yeah.
and then everyone else is kind of spread around North America too. It's not like they're all in one spot. So
Yeah.
there's only so many people you can take. I think it'd be tough to do better for 6 people than this.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty happy with it. I like it.
Hey, maybe next time you'll be on it. You know, a year from now,
Dude,
moving up in the world.
that would be just like a whirlwind of change.
Hey,
I'm not saying I would turn it down, but that'd be a whirlwind of change right there, man. I mean,
keep on the
we
grind,
can dream, man. One day I'll be there.
Big aspirations, of course.
Yeah, you got to keep them big. But that's going to do it for the news. So we're moving on to the roster shuffle. The first bit of news is Polarity Esports picks up Astro, Heck, and Dragon. This is a bubble scene team. Polarity Esports, I can't say it's an organization I've seen before. This is probably their first entry into Rocket League. But they are a bubble scene level organization, most likely. They're probably not hugely sponsored or anything. So all in all, great pickup though. Like if you're an organization that's going to come in, like, and you're going to pick up a amateur team, Astro, Heck, and Dragon, that's a really solid pickup. These guys are going to make waves as they start playing together more. This is a newly formed team, and yeah, Astro, Heck, and Dragon, like, they've all won our Launchpad tournaments on Mondays. Like, these guys know what they're doing. Like, they're all very, very solid players. Like, I really don't know how else to put it. Like, they're just a good team. So happy for them that they have an organization that picked them up. Even, I mean, of course, I don't know they'd be getting paid or anything, but you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up stuff on Polarity, and a lot of the socials that I'm finding are just dead. So
yeah, so it's one of those things that, like, Eldino, Eldino, for those of you who don't know, Eldino is the one who actually, like, puts together the roster news for me. We don't actually, like, know some of these moves. Some of them, like, we are aware of, but, like, some of them, like this one, like, he drops in here for us. Otherwise, we wouldn't know about them. So there probably wasn't, like, a Twitter deal or anything for him to link, because he linked everything else. So
yeah, but again, it's again one of those things where, you know, if they make it in, like, let's say they make it into the RLRS,
yeah,
it's so much more advantageous for the orgs, I feel like, to have a team already going into it. Sure, it's nice for the players in the short term, you know, if you don't make it, but if you do, like, the upside is so much more towards the org in that case, because then you get the outreach of having a team in the RLRS.
Yeah.
So, good for them,
yeah.
And we'll see how they do. Again, if they're winning those PWR weeklies, you know, hey, listen,
dude, we had 200 signups on the recent one.
Jeez,
like, it was crazy. Hey, I was like,
bumping up that prize pool, man. That's what it does.
$75 now every Monday. We're plugging too many things for ourselves. We need to stop it. We are just running a constant ad reel on these people, and they didn't come here for that. They came here for news. Speaking of which, Astral has joined Dignitas as their new third. Don't you laugh at this. This is serious business, man, and we're just running an ad reel constantly. But Astral, he joined Dignitas, so I didn't know if he was going to be their third. They didn't get, like, a very great result there at DreamHack, so I'm kind of surprised that they decided to just go with him.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that'll probably take time.
Yeah, they may have seen the start of something with him.
Yeah, and it's so early. At least they're settled in now, so that team's going to be Yukio,
Violent Panda, and Astral.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do against the rest of EU there. Lot of volatility in EU this season, so
yeah,
at least they're settling in and they're getting it done now and they're sticking with it, and that's how they're gonna roll. So you got to give them credit for that. But
And I
yeah,
mean,
this is kind of like a go big or go home sort of move, I feel.
Yeah, well, like the two big things that we're waiting on currently are who is going to be the third for NRG and what's going to happen with Turbo Pulso. Those are like the two big things that the whole community is waiting on.
Pretty much. So
I don't see them happening at the same time. So those of you who think that he might be the one, I can't say I agree with it.
Really quickly, as it relates to Dignitas, did you see the clip from Fireburner's watch party with Sizz about?
Yes. So, oh my gosh, I watched that and I was like, dude, that's so brutal.
So, I'm relaying this secondhand. Again, you can go on the Rocket League Esports subreddit, and we'll include it actually very briefly in our show notes.
Yeah, if I can't find it really quickly while you're talking.
But there's a clip of Sizz and Fireburner talking about DreamHack, and Sizz relays a story about Turbo. So apparently when Dignitas was playing at DreamHack, again, Turbo was playing for the River Rats, you know, so he wasn't on Dignitas. But Dignitas had just lost on the stage, and they were walking off, and Turbo, like, stares them down, looks, and just gives them the classic Turbo wheeze, just goes, it just sits there and just laughs at him. I'm like, what a savage.
He's so brutal, man. He's so savage. He's
so good for the scene is what he is.
All right, I have it right here. So, you know, we're going to show the people at home so they can hear Sizz relay it real quick.
Okay. His relation's better than mine.
Oh, it's so funny. Here it is, people.
Can I tell a story where after they lost, what you said?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we're chilling. We were watching the Dig series. Dig loses to Complexity, right? Or who was it?
What is it? Valencia?
Yeah, Valencia. Dig loses, and I'm sitting with Turbo. Turbo stands the whole time and stares down the entire Dig team as they're walking away in shame. And then as they're walking as close as possible to them, he just goes...
Turbo Weeze in person is ultimate BM, dude. Oh shit.
Oh my god.
Imagine getting hit with the fucking Turbo kettle laugh in real life.
Dude, no, not only that, immediately after they lost in front of the whole team.
That's
and right after River Rats had just won too.
Dude.
But yeah, so that's what happened.
Amazing.
I love how they portray it though, saying getting hit by the kettle laugh.
I know Fireburner is really funny too.
He's hilarious. Like I've never actually like watched him before, and like I gotta say, he is hilarious.
Those old videos with Fireburner, Sizz, and Moses are like up there with like
top notch, man. They're like funny.
They're just so good.
They are so funny. But like he's such a savage, man. Like Turbo's just one of those guys who he does not care in the slightest what you think of him. He's just gonna be himself, and I love it.
Well, he's so unapologetic. And
no,
you need
that. Just like the new NRG logo.
oh, stop. Can we leave that for freewheeling? We need to finish our roster shuffle.
Yeah, you're right.
We'll talk about that because I'm mad, but we'll talk about it. Because otherwise, you're gonna hear me for 10 minutes go on about this atrocious thing that they call an NRG logo now.
Oh my god! And these last two, we'll just kind of blaze through. Monkey Moon is gonna be leaving Xenomoon. Was that their team name? Xenomoon?
I forget.
I think that was the team name, Xenomoon, and he is joining ARG. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother trying to pull that up. But yep, so he's not with his team anymore. So that's one change that you'll be seeing there. And then last but not least, Lethamyr leaked the Birds and the Bees roster change, possibly. The little blurb here is just a comment from his Twitlonger, accidentally leaks B&B's transfer. I was told by a pro friend a couple days ago, however, that Mist left B&B and was trying to get on Ghost. So apparently, we're going to see Mist possibly replace one of the players on Ghost. Potentially Lethamyr, but I mean, I don't really know who.
Yeah, that's another.
It's looking most likely like it'll be him.
that's a whole other situation that's been very much in flux. We talk about these moves that sort of might happen, might not happen. We haven't really had anything official yet, so it's hard to make any concrete opinion. However, it wouldn't shock me if that was the
it
case.
wouldn't shock me either.
And I'm sure a lot of those conversations happen like all the time.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. But that is going to do it for the roster shuffle. So moving on to our freewheeling segment where we just discuss whatever we feel like about the scene. If you guys have any questions or you want to kick in a thought while we're going through our discussions, feel free there in chat. We may bring you in. Who knows? But I want to get your thoughts really quickly. Not really quickly. We got plenty of time tonight, unlike normal. But what are your thoughts on the pro scene and how it seems most of the roster changes are handled behind closed doors? Because going back to what we were talking about earlier with the complexity situation, I think that sometimes a little too much information is shared a little too early. And it ruins things in some cases. It leads to yikes situations. So, I mean, just kind of tell me, like, what are some of your thoughts on the pro scene as a whole with these things?
So there's a couple of things I think that kind of go into it. One is that you have to remember that a lot of these players are still really, really young.
Yeah, we're a very young esport.
Well, not only that, but just like the
no, like I'm talking about like the general age. Like the average age of players is very young.
Yeah.
I don't think you can call us a young esport anymore. We're the same age as Overwatch, for crying out loud.
Right. So, these are kids, and a lot of times, I'm not going to fault, kids, and I say kids, I'm 23. I'm not going to fault kids who are but kids who are 17, 18, 19 years old who are making, a living doing this. They're making probably more money than any of their peers. They're doing something that's really cool.
They're making more than some people our age.
Right.
And
more
like
than me right now.
like you look at players like Squishy Muffin, like Scrubkilla. Dude just made more money than I've probably made in my whole life. By winning RLCS 7.
And so they get these, and so obviously there's a ton of ego, there's pride, there's there's the simply thinking like I'm the best in the world at this, and I think you just see a lot of immaturity. Yeah. And a lot of it has to do with the age. But additionally, so not only do it's again just because it trends younger, but also because of how small the pro scene is relatively. Again, if you think about,
they're a pretty tight-knit group. Like everyone knows everyone. So
realistically, again, in one region there are 8 RLCS teams. There are 3 players on a team, so there's 24. There's you and 23 others. Of your peers, quote unquote.
I mean, when you look across the top teams across the world, you're looking at less than 100 people, basically.
Easily. So oftentimes when you have a group that small, the disagreements and the roster stuff, like how people make these moves, it's gonna get ugly fast because everyone knows everyone. It's not like it's not something where if you're at a regular job and your company hires someone else, and they let you go, like it's not personal. It's
just business.
Sure, you hate the guy coming in, but you probably don't know who that person is in most fields. In most cases, you don't know the new person. You have no idea who they are. But because everyone knows each other at this level, and it's so easy to find people, who are up and coming and trying to get into it, that it just makes it, one, incredibly toxic, I'm sure, and two, when these shuffles happen, they happen like lightning because they just everyone knows. They
come at you so fast too.
Once one domino falls, everyone talks about it with one another, and then it just goes because they're all just they're all in touch with each other. They all know who they are. So there's a couple of different things, but obviously, I think again based on what we've seen lately, you'd like it to be a little bit more professional. In the past, I don't feel like it's been as yikes worthy as this offseason has. I feel like this has been
like
fairly ugly.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on this one. Like, I feel like it's, and I don't know if it's because it's just now, like, each season we're getting like, these things are progressively getting covered more and more and more. But my main problem that I'm having with a lot of this is people just, they're giving too much information at times, or they're jumping the gun in situations. Like Flakes, he jumped the gun in the situation. He's the one who released that he was removed from complexity. If he had just kept it to himself, though, and like actually just, you know, handled things behind closed doors and not just jumped the gun and like thrown this stuff out there to people, then I think that we wouldn't have known anything about it. It just would have sorted itself out and things would have been, you know, whatever. People would have been like, oh, Turbo played there in DreamHack qualifiers, and then Flakes is here for the actual event. That's weird. Wonder what happened. People will try to speculate on what happened, but at the end of the day, we're not going to know, and that's going to be a good thing. I think to an extent, the more that's kind of like kept away from the community, I think the better in some cases. Like, I think this time where people are trying to pull these kind of gotchas and they're airing their dirty laundry with the rest of the community, it's disgusting, quite frankly. Like, I totally disagree with this idea that you can just bring up this stuff on Twitter or the subreddit or in Discord and like be cool with it. Like we saw in like a comment section on the RL Esports subreddit of Remco and iIgnite going at each other.
Right.
Because they couldn't be mature and just handle it through DMs. And it's just like, that's gross. Do not air your dirty laundry out in public like that. Keep it to yourselves. Let's get mature about this. At the end of the day, like you were saying, this is a job. Everybody is replaceable. Every single person out there is replaceable. Everybody's got a number, and yours is going to get called eventually, because that's just how esports work. You really don't maintain a career in esports beyond 30. Like, it's very rare to see someone beyond 30 who still is able to maintain a career in esports. You just don't see it. And so
playing at a competitive level.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things that it's just like, the fact that everyone's like getting so hurt over all of these, I'm just like, grow up. And I'm not saying that like you can't be upset about it, but there's no need to come into the community like that and bring everything with you. I think the community kind of brings it on itself sometimes. I think the community sometimes is at fault on things and how some of these play out, but it's gross to me.
Yeah, and I think you kind of see that. Remember it was the Shock, Hawkster, and Mist. I think it was it Shock that got dropped?
Yeah, it was
the old.
Yeah, no. Right? I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, the old Afterthought team, Shock, Mist, and Hawkster. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, and it got.
That was gross. It was stupid.
Who was it that got dropped again?
It was Shock that got dropped and picked up by
right.
Roldiz.
And so
like
Shock
they create Roldiz, Hawkster, and Mist created Birds and the Bees, and then Shock went and joined. Wait, no, hang on. I can't say words. Hawkster, Shock, and someone else, they created Afterthought, and the other three went and did.
But remember how ugly it was? Because I think it was Shock that came out like right after it happened.
Yeah, guns blazing, comes out the gate attacking people.
And it got so ugly so quickly, and then like later, like, and everyone took his side initially, right? Like when it first came out, and I remember this on the subreddit because I was watching it unfold live.
Yeah, no, basically. I remember watching all of it too, and I was just like watching it like, what the heck? People?
Everyone took his side because they're like, man, how can you drop someone right before qualifiers? This is so terrible, blah blah blah. And then and I remember thinking it at the time, and I said, again, you don't just drop someone right before qualifiers like that for no reason.
Yes.
always a reason, and there are two
Exactly.
sides to every story. And when it came out, you know, that they said, they're like, look, like,
he was toxic in comms. He was demotivating. He
was bringing us down.
He was not a great teammate for us to work with. Yeah.
And then, clearly, right? Because that was the reaction he had. So, and
like
then people
in their tweet longer, it said all that.
Oh, you're right. But again, I think a lot of it has to do with setting the tone, right, and setting the court of public opinion. And I think that's not unique to Rocket League esports. I think that's true for a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
But it's just playing the court of public opinion, just so that, you know, you come out looking, you know, you're looking ahead of the damage. You know, you're trying
and
to
that's
set the pace of the story before it drops.
Yeah, it comes down to whoever releases the story first is the one who controls the narrative. That's exactly right. And that's kind of what like we saw there with like the iIgnite situation. iIgnite was kind of the one who like came out first, and then Remco was like mentioned in comments like whoa, like hold up now. And then the Flakes thing, Flakes is the one who dropped it, and everybody was like Magnus and Greasy are to blame. And it's like
exactly.
And it's like, dude, you people have got to just keep this. I mean, just pardon language, you gotta keep this shit to yourselves. Dude, like stop. And like the problem is too, is like when you bring the community in, the community is just a hive mind. Right. Like you're gonna have so many people who are just gonna hop on the train and be like, yeah, Shock is right. Woo, iIgnite's correct. Flakes is right. And then more stuff comes out, and then people are like, oh,
yeah.
And it's just like, come on, people. Like, I get it. You can be mad. I'm not saying you can't be mad, but let's mature ourselves here. Let's grow up. And let's, you know, handle this like adults. At the end of the day, like, I get it. They're young. But I think it's just, man, it's just gross how some of this stuff keeps happening. And I don't see it changing, though, which is what sucks.
You just read my mind, because I was literally going to say the same exact thing. I don't see it changing at all. I don't. Because you know what the other problem is? Is that people love it. And, like...
No, like, the subreddit and Twitter and everybody are, like...
Oh, they go crazy for it. They go crazy for it. And, like... You know, it just, I don't see it changing, and
yeah,
it's just, it's one of those things where, let's put it this way, if I were a professional Rocket League player, I would never look at my Twitter, and I would never look at the esports subreddit. I would not. I wouldn't be able to handle it, personally, because it's, you know, it's people projecting. I mean, that's what we're doing, essentially, right? I mean, you know, you and I can perhaps be more mature about it, but at the end of the day, you know, I come out, okay, so like my opinion on the Flakes thing, for example, like that's purely projection. I could be 100% wrong. I have no idea, but nobody does. And that's like, and when these things come out, you know, it's just, it's all to just push a narrative and push an opinion. And yeah, I just, again, if it were me, if I were a professional Rocket League player, I would never look at my Twitter comments, and I would never look at the esports subreddit.
Well, I'm like,
I wouldn't.
It's just for me, it's one of those things that it's like I've done enough commentary now that like people are gonna say mean things, and like you just have to accept that.
Oh yeah.
But it's one of those things too that it's just like, okay, if you don't like the criticism, don't look at it. Hence, like my difference between Saturday and Sunday, I didn't look at chat. I don't look at that stuff, and like, it's one of those things that it's just. You just have to look past it at some point, or you just got to grow a thick enough skin that you can just take it and move on. Understand that not everybody's opinion matters. There are some people who their opinion is just straight up garbage, and they're not there to give you an honest critique or criticism. They're just there to tear you down, and you have to just be ready. Like, there are people like that out in the world. There are people out in the community like that. Is the majority of the community that way? No, but there are people like that. And like Lethamir, for instance, man, I gotta say, if you don't like it, then you've got to turn off. You got to turn it off, just like you're saying you would turn it off. Yeah. You've got to turn it off. Stop looking at it. And I mean, you just have so many people that like they keep looking at it, and then they want to make complaints about it. And I'm just like, why are you looking at it if it upsets you so much?
Yeah, and especially because again, it's and this actually relates in many ways to traditional sports too. You know, you see athletes, you know, sometimes they'll come out on like an Instagram comment or a Twitter comment or whatever, and they'll just come out and they'll just flame someone. It's like, well, yeah, because I can sit here and I can, you know, criticize the way Tom Brady throws a football or the way LeBron James takes a jump shot, but at the end of the day, they're
pro and you're
LeBron
just a
James.
sideshow.
and I'm watching. They're doing it and I'm watching. At the end of the day, really. So
no, that's exactly right.
It's, you know, it's just one of those things, and
Well,
you know,
it just is one of those
ugly.
things too that it's like you gotta think too. Who do people talk about? They talk about the ones who put themselves out there. If you don't want to be talked about, keep to yourself. Problem solved. You don't hear a whole lot of people say much about memory.
right.
Like, when's the last time anybody talked about memory on Ghost?
Chicago.
Yeah.
One.
When is the last time that people have said anything about some of these players? Guess what? It's because they don't put themselves out there. You have to understand, when you start doing things like streaming on Twitch, putting yourself out there more as a community figure, doing things on Twitter, you are opening yourself up and you are shining more light on who you are as a person, and you have to understand, you're letting people see that side of you. And you can't turn around and then say, "Oh, I'm mad that y'all want to say anything." No. Like, there's a fine line. You just got to pick, man. You got to grow a skin, thick skin on it, turn it off, or, you know, kind of keep to yourself. There's a lot of pro players that, like, no one talks about. Guess what? Because they don't put themselves out there. When's the last time anybody actually, like, discussed anything about Jay Wismont?
Right. Yeah.
Aside from, like,
there's a few.
roster moves and stuff. Guess what? Roster moves are going to be discussed whether you like it or not. Like, that... Newsflash, that is a fact of sports, esports, anything to do with teams. That is a fact. It's going to happen. People are going to discuss it. You may not like what they're going to say, but they're going to discuss it. And you have to be prepared for it. And I get it. A lot of these people don't have a crash course in it, of course. And I'm not saying, like, they can't be upset, but you just can't let it get to you so much that, like, it starts bleeding into the community.
Yeah, and it's funny because one of the prevailing things, you know, with Rocket League is like, man, like, why don't more pros like stream? Like, why don't more pros just, you know, take cuts and, you know, take cuts of their gameplay and their scrims and just put them on YouTube? It's like, because they don't want to open themselves up to it. They just
exactly.
And like, and that's the sad reality. But like, frankly, like,
some people aren't prepared for. Some people don't like spotlight, and that's okay. Some people are not, like, they're not people who are meant to be famous, and, like, that is okay. You don't have to want to accept that. You can reject that if you want and still continue doing the things you do. Like, that is okay. No, like, I'm not gonna fault anyone for wanting to keep to themselves. After seeing some of the things that the community will say, and that just other people, like, people will say in general about you, like, I get it. I totally get it.
It's like, it reminds me, so like, remember the Kevin Durant thing when he moved to Golden State? This is basketball. But
Yeah. No. I'm like trying to remember. Keep explaining.
Remember it came out that he had like a bunch of like burner like Twitter accounts and stuff, and he would like comment on people's stuff. Like, it came out that like Kevin Durant, again, fun, like top 5 basketball.
Yeah, he's a great player.
Amazing. But he was so, again, one of if not the best player in the world, was still so, you know, I don't want to say fragile because that's not the right term, but so,
I mean, at the end of the day, though, aren't we all a little bit fragile?
Yeah,
I mean, I think that, like, fragile is the right word. I think some people's egos and just, like, their feelings get hurt very easily. And, like, again, I don't think that that's wrong of you to have your feelings hurt very easily. My feelings get hurt easy. I hate when I see a negative comment about myself. But at the same time, like, I acknowledge that, hey, that person probably has pretty crappy intentions. How much of my time and energy should I actually spend thinking about that one negative thing? We've gotten a lot of love for our show, but am I going to in like my commentary, am I going to focus on the one that wants to criticize me and say, like, oh, I could do a better job than this guy? What critique is there in that? There's nothing.
Right. And it's just, again, it's all so public and it's all so out there. And I think sometimes people just need to take a deep breath and just sort of let it go. Again, it's very easy to look at these things and get upset and get hurt and feel like, and feel like everyone is pitted against you, I guess.
Yeah.
But
And I mean,
you know,
there's sometimes that it can definitely feel that way, and I get that. Again, you have every right to feel that way, but you just, at some point, you just got to make a decision of how you're going to handle it. And blowing up on Twitter, blowing up on the subreddit, blowing up out in public, like, that's not...
it's not the
like
way.
it's just not the way, man. Like there's much better ways that you can handle the crap of the world than doing that.
It makes you appreciate the people like Kronovi and like Safu.
No, and like
who
Safu
when
is
they had when it went bad for them, 'cause
Yeah.
it went bad for both of them. When it went bad for them, they took it with class. And like
no, and like that was my thought too. Is I was like, I wish more people would handle it like those two did, because they were so mature and measured about how they announced it, how they handled it. You didn't, like, you know for a fact these two guys were hurt by that decision.
Oh.
You know that, like, it hurt them on a fundamental level. But did we see that as the community? No, we didn't. You may have seen it slightly, but did they blow up? Did they get upset and come out and say, like, hurtful things about these people? No, they just kind of were like, yeah, like, this happened, and, you know, I'm gonna move on from it. Like, you know, it is what it is. It happened. Like, I can't go back and change it now. Blowing up and saying any of these mean things out into the public and sharing with the community, like, that's not going to change the situation. What? You think sharing this with the community is going to put you back on the team? You go say something to out in the public like that after I dump you from my team. I got news for you. You're never coming back. Because I don't want you back now.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is like, man, I would never burn a bridge in esports.
And that's exactly it, is they're burning bridges when they do these types of things.
I would never burn a bridge. You know, it's like, because you just don't know about who you're going to be teamed up. You don't know about what's going to happen next, the opportunities. You don't want to be in a spot where you don't want to, you know, you get an offer for a team, let's say, and then you can't take it because you and a player or two have bad history. Like, that's just, it's so detrimental to your own career. So yeah, again, it's
Crows with shiny wings there in chat. I don't know, man. Being kicked from a team seems like them burning the bridge. I think that like, yeah, to an extent they are burning the bridge with the player when they do that, but I think at the end of the day it kind of comes down to, which person do you want to be? Do you want to be the guy who kicked someone from the team and you look like the bad guy, or do you want to be the guy who got kicked from the team and then goes and starts saying all this crap out in public? I personally want to be the guy who gets kicked from a team, takes it in stride, and moves on, and tries to do something bigger and better with myself. Guess what? Kronovi got kicked from his team. He went on to Rogue. They did fantastic this season, making top 4 for RLCS World Championships. I don't like how things went down for him in G2, but, you know, it's life. Sucks.
And just, again, purely as a hypothetical to add to that, like, let's say, for example, you know, it's not burning a bridge if you get kicked. Like, let's say, for example,
I mean, at times it's business. Like, that's the other thing too, is like it hurts your feelings, but sometimes it's business. Like with G2, I totally got it. It's business. They kept trying and it wasn't working.
And like, let's just say, for example, you know, let's say like G2 just kicked Rizzo, right? They kicked Rizzo and then they reach out to Crow, and so now it's JNaps in Chicago, and they're like, "Hey, Crow, do you want to do this?" You think Crow takes that offer? Maybe, but you know, if Crow had gone out there and made an ass of himself and the rest of his teammates, you know, something like that couldn't happen. You know, I could see a world, frankly, I could see a world where G2 makes a roster move and they'd be willing to take Kronovi back. I
don't personally say that. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but it has
a situation like that isn't impossible, and it's happening in other esports too. You
know,
look at the history of Cloud9 CS:GO team, or you know, a lot of the North American CS:GO, or even some of the League of Legends stuff. You know, take a look at the history of those things, and tell me that's not impossible, that players can come back to team together after bad breaks.
And I mean,
like,
I'm kind of with Chad on this one. I don't think that like you go back and join the team. I think like he's saying there is, you have it in your mind that you're expendable if you rejoin, and I get that. There's a level of insecurity there, but to kind of go off it though, he left the team. He took it in stride. He was very mature about it. He didn't go out and berate anybody and say that it was anybody's fault. He was just like, "Yep, it happened. Like, I've just got to move on and find something new for myself." And guess what? Him and G2 are starting to talk again. Like, they're not friendly again anymore, but like they are starting to try and get back to a point where they're on good terms. Do you think that would happen if Crow had gone out and said, "Hey, these assholes kicked me from the team and I like just know like they did this behind my back. I only found out from my girlfriend. I didn't even find out from the team." Like, he very much could have gone out and tried to pin it all on them and said, like, these guys are assholes. But he didn't. And guess what? Their relationship is still able to be salvaged because of it. Do they ever become a team again? I don't think so. I'm going to keep my hands off that one. I don't see it happening personally. But there's a possibility again that maybe they could team up once more. Maybe Kronovi and Rizzo find themselves on a team together again someday, or Kronovi and J-Naps find themselves on a team again someday. That could very much happen. It's a small scene. It's a small world. That could happen at some point. And guess what? Because he handled that, because of how he chose to handle that situation, it becomes possible. And that's the moral of it all, is just, you know, take it in stride, work with it. Like, you and me have, like, kind of gone on a tangent now. We've gone all over the place. But it's just, I think that there just needs to be a level of maturity coming back into things. And I think that the community, and I think to an extent the community, it's especially, have just kind of let it go. We feed into it so much that, like, it looks acceptable now. Yeah,
and it's, again, I think that's true with anything. You know, whenever people love drama, I mean, it's a fact. It's just the way we are as people.
No, I mean,
I don't think that's,
you don't go to a NASCAR race for the race. You go in hopes that there's going to be a crash.
Right.
But that's exactly it. You go to see the crashes. You go to see the mayhem. And it's the same thing here. You're going to go for the drama. Of course. Who wouldn't?
You know, because it's essentially free entertainment, but it is at someone's expense. That's the thing. At the end of the day, it is at someone's expense.
No, so, you're right.
You know, again, it's like, you know, it's one of the things, like, you love it, but you hate it. And it's just, I think what Ryan and I can both agree on is that we just wish sometimes it could be handled better, and that, you know, it didn't have to always be this ugly, because I don't think it always was. I don't think it always was this ugly.
No, it wasn't.
This offseason,
in particular has looked pretty gnarly.
Yeah, so I don't know. Again, one of those things where, you know, I said it earlier, and I think I'll end on this again. If I were a professional Rocket League player, I would never look at my YouTube comments. I would never look at the esports subreddit, and I would never look at the Twitter comments. I just wouldn't. I know personally, I wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely a tough thing, and I mean, I salute you guys for putting up with it. And again, I'm not trying to be critical of anybody, but just one of those things that it's like, let's try to aim for a change here, and let's
do better.
Yeah, let's be better. Let's be better as an esport, because the pro scene is a lot of people's first look at the game. And so you're the face of it. And so when you come out and you're just like mean and just nasty, like, I don't know. In some cases I look at it and I'm like, ooh, yikes. I don't really know that I want to be a part of that community. But I mean, you know, I think we've said as much as we can say on it. And so, yeah, just, you got any final words you want to say on that?
We need a longer podcast, Ryan. We need a longer podcast.
Dude, you and me just need to have, you and me just need to do, like, maybe once a month or every other month, just have, like, you and me sit down and we just talk. And, like, there's no time limit. Like, we just talk. Because I enjoy having these, like, more intense conversations with you. Like, I think that these are much more fun for me personally. It's more reflective.
Not enough minutes in the hour.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But guys, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Changing my whole tone here. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Once again, be sure to follow us here on Twitch so you stay up to date on everything we do here once we go live, all that jazz. We'll be uploading this episode later on youtube.com. Go give us a sub there, because then once we hit 100, I can say go give us a sub over at youtube.com/playingwithrockets, but I can't say that yet. So please go give us a subscription over there. I can't say words today for some reason. I don't know what is wrong with my tongue. Blah, 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 blah. Perino, you got any plugs you want to give, man?
I will just do the basic one. You can check right underneath me right here is my Twitter handle at Perino TV. You can find me mostly hanging out on Twitch on twitch.tv/Perino. I am generally online during the day, during the week.
Are you streaming tonight or no?
No, I don't think so. I have a couple of things I got to do. Okay. Again, this week, not great for me because I'm moving. But, you know.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Generally speaking, you know, that's where you can find me. So.
Yeah. But you can also follow me. You can also follow me at PWR PWR_Ryan over on Twitter. And you can also follow us over at PWR_leagues on Twitter. But, yep, this has been Around the Scene, presented to you by Playing with Rockets. I'm Ryan, that's Perino. Thank you so much for coming on again, man. It's always good having you.
Thanks, bud. Again, always a pleasure.
It's been our pleasure to have you with us. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Toodaloo.